Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm showing you my 2023 luxury beauty favorites in action. So I typically like to do a sit-down video where I talk about all these products in depth about why I love them throughout the year. But in this video, I am showing you in action. So I am showing all these products applied to my skin and why these are my favorites from the year of 2023. So these aren't my absolutely holy grail luxury beauty products of all time. I will be doing that video next. If you want to see my luxury beauty favorites from the year of 2023 in action, just keep watching. I'm starting off with the eyes per usual, and I'm going to take my number one eyeshadow palette of the year, and that is the Peau eyeshadow quad in the shade number 2, Beach Pebbles. I'm going to start with the primer shade in this palette. So this is the only eyeshadow that's a different formula than the other eyeshadows. And it is this one in every single eyeshadow palette that Peau launched. It is a different formula. It's almost like this doughy consistency. It's very creamy. So I'm going to take that just on a Sonia G Builder 2 brush. And I'm going to apply that all over the lid. So when it does look like Play-Doh. You can kind of manipulate this sort of shade because it's putty-like. It's very interesting, but this shade in every Peau eyeshadow palette is the primer shade. So you can apply this underneath the other eyeshadows. You obviously don't have to. You can just go in with the other eyeshadows in whatever way you want to use this eyeshadow quad. It's not like you have to use these colors in a particular way. But if you do use this eyeshadow shade first, honestly, the way that the other shadows blend over top of this is just so seamless. It requires basically no effort to apply the other eyeshadows. It's pretty remarkable. I'm going to take this shade right here, which is this matte. It's a pretty neutral brown, and I'm just going to take it on a Sonia G Blender Pro. I'm just going to work that onto the outer corner of the eye first, and then I'll bring it into the crease. So this is just typically how I apply my eyeshadows, and I really love this quad because I do think this is an improvement over the last Peau eyeshadows because those had more intermittent shimmers. They're a little more sparkly than this one. This is just very refined. It's very soft. It is very, very beauty enhancing. So it just enhances your natural beauty without it being an over-the-top eyeshadow. I am just going to run that shade across the lid as well, just to give a little bit of color. But this is just so soft and so natural. I feel like it is any occasion appropriate because it's just so soft and looks beautiful. And I'm going to take this deepest shade on this little smudger brush. This is from Wayne Goss. I don't believe it's available anymore. But any sort of smudging brush. I'm going to apply this across the lash line, just from the outer corner inwards. So yeah, I just love this formulation, how soft and blendable it is. It's just so forgiving. If you're someone with mature eyes, I would definitely recommend this. And this color story just spoke the most to me because it was the most soft and the most neutral, natural sort of colors. It does claim it's a warm palette. I wouldn't really classify this as warm. I would say it's more neutral than like a super warm palette. And I will say, because I do have a lighter skin tone, I think this would work for light to medium dark skin tones. I don't know how well this would work if you have a deep skin tone, but they do have a palette that's very similar to this color story, but it has deeper tones, and I think it's the shade number 4. So I would definitely recommend that if you are deeper complected. And finally, I am going to take that same Sonia G flat shader brush, and I'm going to apply this shade right here that we just haven't gone into yet. I'm going to apply that on the lid, and this is just such a soft and beautiful everyday eyeshadow look that, again, it works for any occasion because of how soft and natural it is. So if you're like me and you don't like a lot of heavy eyeshadows and you're not really into eyeshadows in general, this is a palette I would definitely recommend. I'm going to take my favorite one and done eyeshadow of the year. This is the Surratt Souffle eyeshadow in the shade Ciel, Dore. And this is such a weird formulation, but I'm going to take it just on my fingertips and I'm going to apply that over top. So I like this eyeshadow because you can apply it over top of powder eyeshadows and it just sets down and it will wear all day long. Really, really beautiful, one and done, just on its own, but it's really pretty to finish off a look as well because it just adds a little bit more of interest on the lid and it's just very beautiful. And again, it's a nice neutral color that you can wear for every day. For the lower lash line, I'm just going to dip into that matte brown shade again. I'm going to take it on a pencil brush and blend that from the outer corner inwards. I'm not going to go all the way to the inner corner of the lower lash line, just about 3/4 of the way across. And then as always, I connect it to that outer upper lash line to make sure everything flows nicely. My favorite foundation of 2023 is the Peau Radiant Cushion Foundation Dewy. I am in the shade 030 Medium Ochre. I love this foundation for a multitude of reasons. One of the different reasons, I guess, is that this is actually good for 24 months. So 2 years is a pretty long shelf life for most foundations. We only get a 1 year shelf life. So this has 2 year shelf life. I love how this looks on my skin. So I would say this is a more perfecting foundation that I don't use on an everyday basis. I reserve this more for, I don't even want to say special occasions, but maybe if I have plans or something, like I am going out for dinner, I'm going out for lunch, if I'm going out in public, because I still think that this is a very beautiful in-person foundation. It doesn't look like heavy foundation, but it doesn't look undetectable on the skin. It's not like the Chanel Water Fresh tint, which looks like no makeup. This definitely is a product that, I don't want to say it looks like you're wearing like heavy foundation, but it definitely is just not an undetectable foundation. So it is a more perfecting foundation because it has that medium buildable coverage, but this is so beautiful on the skin because it has my favorite technology, which is that blurring filtered effect. So to use this foundation, what I just like to do is, I'm actually going to go in with a brush. I like to just dip my brush into the foundation like this, and then I'll kind of get any excess product off and I'll apply it onto my skin. So that's how I like to apply this foundation, and then I just start where I need the most coverage, which is typically around this area, and then I move to the center of my face where I don't like a lot of coverage there just because I feel like it looks more makeup-y. But I love this foundation mostly, again, because of that blurring filtered effect that it gives. It just makes your skin look so smooth and soft focus and really beautiful. It's a beautiful in-person foundation. It is not too heavy, even though I would say it's more of that medium coverage. But I really like those foundations that you can manipulate a little bit more, because with a fuller coverage foundation, you have the option to thin it out with like a moisturizer or a primer, or just go in with a very, very small amount of product. Versus if you just have a light coverage foundation, you're only stuck with using your light coverage foundation as a light coverage foundation. You can't build that up to a medium to full coverage. So I really like this foundation for that reason. I would say a con to this, if you have super oily skin, this might be a little bit too hydrating for you, but I think if you have combo skin, you could get this foundation to work for you if you just powder the center of your skin. I do think that even though this is called a dewy foundation, even if you have oily skin, don't completely avoid this foundation. You might just want to try it out, but again, go in with a mattifying primer. You will have to powder your skin, but I don't think it's too dewy that if you have combo skin, it's going to be too much for you. But this is perfect for anyone else with dry skin. I got my mom to buy this foundation, and this is her new favorite foundation as well. So if you're someone with mature skin, I think this would work really well for you. My mom is 65, and she loves this foundation, so I just love how this looks. It's so beautiful, and yeah, this is definitely my favorite foundation of 2023. I totally forgot to mention my favorite mascara of the year. So I did go in off camera with the YSL Lash Clash mascara in the shade Brown. This has just been my favorite for the majority of the year. It's kind of replaced my Gucci mascara. The one downfall I want to say is that when it's really hot outside, it does smudge a little bit, which is very interesting because I actually find this a little harder to remove at the end of the day. But this is just such a great mascara for giving length and volume and nice separation. It doesn't ever leave my lashes feeling clumpy or too heavy or anything like that. It's very nice. And I do like to layer it with the Dore. This is the 3D Maximizer. I just like to use a lash primer underneath my mascara. That's a personal preference, but absolutely love this combination. And I just realized that this is my favorite highlighter of the year. This is the Gucci Illuminator de Beaute, the multi-use drops. So they're caring and illuminating. So can you see how much I've gone through that? I have like barely any left, so I need to get a backup of these. But typically, and I said I just realized because I typically like to actually use this underneath my foundation. So typically with a highlighter, you apply it around the time where you're applying your bronzer. But I'm someone who, if I'm going to skip any step in my makeup, it's going to be highlighter. I don't love highlighters that much. I have like specific highlighters that I really enjoy, but again, it's just not my personal preference. So because of that, I really have been loving these Gucci Illuminator drops underneath my foundation so that it just shines through a little bit when I apply my foundation over top. So let's just pretend that I'm applying this under my foundation. You can absolutely apply this over top of foundation too, though. It works really beautifully. And if you want a more noticeable highlighter, this isn't a very detectable highlighter. It's basically imperceptible. It really blends into the skin. But if you want something that's more noticeable, then I would go over top of your foundation. So I like to just apply a little bit to the palm of my hand and pick it up with this BK Beauty 203 brush. And I just apply that to the very high points of my cheekbones. And I'm just dabbing it on kind of in a pressing motion. And this is really, really gorgeous because it's not one of those highlighters that has any sort of shimmer particle or glimmer or glitter or anything like that. So it's not going to be one of those obvious highlights. This really does melt into your skin and just gives you that beautiful glow. So it makes your skin look really healthy and gorgeous without it being that noticeable highlight. So it just gives you that really youthful look and glow. And then I do like to just blend that in with a sponge just to make sure there's no harsh lines or anything like that. But it is absolutely stunning. And I really like this liquid illuminator because it also dries down on the skin. So it's not going to be one of those highlighters that remains tacky or sticky on the skin or your hair gets stuck in it, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves with liquid illuminators. This does have that dry down to it. It's not going to dry down to like a really matte finish, but it does dry down so that it's no longer tacky or sticky. This is just beautiful, holy grail sort of product, which is funny because originally I wasn't too fussed about it. And I think I said to skip it, but now you can see how much I've used this. I absolutely love it. My 2023 favorite concealer is the Surratt Dewdrop Concealer in the shade 4. I could probably do the shade 5. This runs a little bit light versus what it says on the website. So I love this concealer and I'm just going to apply it under my eyes here. And I really like it because I would say this is more of a medium coverage concealer, but it has a very, very, very thin texture to it. And it doesn't look heavy under the eyes, even though it is more of that medium, I'd say buildable to medium full coverage. And it doesn't look heavy on the under eyes. It just smooths on the under eyes. It never looks dry. It never looks cakey. It never looks heavy. It never settles into lines throughout the day. It doesn't crease throughout the day. It just remains how you've applied it in the morning all throughout the day. I just love it. It's so beautiful. This is a concealer, so I do want to disclose that Surratt actually did send me this concealer. They sent me 2 shades. The other shade that they sent me was a little bit too light, so I gave it to my mom, and this is now my mom's favorite concealer as well. So it's something that I would say would work well for mature skin because, again, my mom's 65. It works really well for her. There's just nothing bad I have to say about this concealer. This has definitely replaced. Before that, I was really into the Givenchy concealer. This has replaced that. It's just so, so, so good. If you want a thin consistency concealer that does cover up, but that looks so beautiful all day long, definitely check this out. So just finished off the eyes off camera. I went in with my Hourglass. This is the Voya Waterproof Gel Liner, and I tight lined just in my upper waterline. And I also went back in with this brown shade, and I just touched up the lower lash line just because sometimes when I apply concealer, a little bit of that lash line just gets disrupted. So touched up a little bit, and I added a little bit of mascara to my lower lash line. I'm going to finish off the face. My #1 cream blush that was released in 2023 is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Matte Beauty Blush Wand. So this is a liquid blush. Apparently the shade is limited edition, which I'm very upset about. It's still available at Sephora. I would get your hands on it while you can if it is actually limited edition. But I really, really love this. So this isn't technically like a cream blush. It's more of a liquid blush. So I would say if you're a beginner, these aren't the most user-friendly, but I like to apply just a little bit to the palm of my hand here. And then I will take a Sonia G. This is a mini base brush. And I just get that product distributed. So I don't like to apply it directly to the cheeks because you are just going to have such a hard time blending that product. If you apply it to your hand first and really work that product into your brush so that it's evenly distributed, you're going to have a much easier time working with that product. And then you just stipple it onto the cheeks. So I don't buff or rub because that's going to disrupt product underneath. I just press it onto the cheeks, and I like to just apply it kind of a little bit higher to the cheekbone, not crazy high though. And then I'll kind of move it towards the front of my cheek. I don't like to go directly to the cheek there because it looks a little weird when you have blush right in that area. And I really enjoy this product. Again, it's a liquid blush, so the benefit of this is that it dries down on the skin and it's going to be extremely long wearing. The downfall is that because it dries down on the skin, it does dry a little bit faster. So you do have to work a little bit quicker with these sort of products, and you want to work with a small amount of product and you can build these up. So again, I'm going in with another layer because I feel like it's not as intense as I would like it. So these products are nice and buildable, which I really enjoy. And it is pretty pigmented as well, so that could be another downfall if you're not someone that likes to work with really pigmented products. But I just think this looks so beautiful on the cheeks. It's a very skin-like blush. It kind of just looks like you're blushing from within, which I really enjoy with these sort of liquid blush products. It's such a beautiful, beautiful blush, and I really enjoy it. And I do really like the color of this blush. I would say that's probably my favorite part because I feel like this is the kind of, it's a very natural looking blush color on me. It's almost the shade I would turn if I was turning a little bit red or if I was out in the cold. So I really, really enjoy this shade in particular. She has some other shades, but I don't love them as much. I definitely would recommend the shade Pillow Talk. And I do like to go over the edges with the Beauty Blender just to ensure everything is seamless. So I've been doing my makeup a tiny bit different, and I've been applying blush before I go in with bronzer just because I feel like when I go in with blush first, I almost don't require as much bronzer over top because I already have a bit of structure on my face. So that's just how I've been doing it. So with my #1 blush that has been released in 2023, I'm having a hard time deciding. So I really like this Givenchy Prisme Libre blush in the shade #2 Taffeta's Rose. This is absolutely beautiful. It has 4 different quadrants of different shades of pink, and basically you just dump out this blush, you break up these little pigments with your brush, and then you apply it to the skin. I will say because of this application and that it is a loose powder blush, it's a little bit more finicky. It's a little bit harder to apply. It's not difficult, but it's going to require a little bit more effort and time on your part, which is why I'm like a little bit hesitant to say it's my #1 just for that reason. And also Gucci released the Blush de Beaute Cheeks and Eyes Powder Luminous Matte Blush in the shade True Pink. So this is a formula that Gucci has already come out with. They came out with it last year, but they released some new shades. So technically, I don't think this is a new release. So either one of these formulas is absolutely beautiful. I really like this Gucci formula because it's more of a matte blush. It says it's called a luminous matte blush. I don't know. It's more on the matte side. It has like a slight luminosity to it that more makes it a skin-like blush versus it being an actual luminous blush. And this color that I say the name, it's called True Pink. It's that perfect baby doll pink shade that if you just apply a little bit to your cheeks, it's so, so flattering. I think I am going to go in with this Givenchy blush just because I really like the effect of this. It has this beautiful blurring effect, which again is one of my favorite things about blushes is those blurring effects. So it just has this filtered, beautiful quality. It's not crazy pigmented, so it makes it a little bit easier to work with. And I just like that it looks really diffused into the skin. It almost looks as if you've applied a cream blush. That's how seamless it is in the skin. It's very, very beautiful. My absolute #1 bronzer from 2023 is the Hermès Plein Air. This is the Healthy Glow Mineral Powder in the shade #02 Atlas. This is just so beautiful. And again, I feel like it's kind of funny because in my original review, I thought that this wasn't really worth the price. So I just like to go in lightly, tap off the excess, get the excess off on the back of my hand and apply from there. And I just love this formula because it's a very, very finely milled bronzer. So it doesn't get like a lot of powder kick up when you go into this product, and it's very buildable because of that reason. It's very lightly pigmented. So it's almost like a sheer bronzer. So it gives you just a hint of color, which I really enjoy because I'd rather my bronzer be really buildable and natural looking versus it being overly pigmented where I have to be super careful about how I apply it. I just think this formulation is beautiful. It's a perfect, almost like satin finish. I would say it's mostly matte, but it has this creamy quality to it with just a very, very subtle sheen, and it is just beautiful. Love this color. It just gives me, if you can see against my chest, it almost is just like a tiny bit darker than my chest. So it really works as a great bronzer because it's not too contrasted. It's not like 5 shades darker than my skin tone. so it doesn't look too harsh. It's just absolutely beautiful. Really enjoy this formulation. And finally, lipstick. My favorite lipstick of the year. I have been trying to be on like a no-buy for lip products because I tend to just stay to the same colors and just use that over and over and over again. So I've been really trying to be very nitpicky about lip colors that I'm picking up, but I really, really enjoyed these YSL Volupte Candy Glaze, yeah, that's what they're called, lipsticks. And I liked it so much that I bought in 2 shades. I know a lot of people have been sent these in PR, but I bought these myself, and I just really, really love this formulation. So I have the shade number 15, which is like this beautiful brownie pinky nude. So I like to apply this as a lip color, and I just apply it all over the lips. And this formulation, it's just like a melty balm. So it feels almost like Vaseline. It basically starts out as a hard, waxy consistency, but then when you apply it onto your lips, it melts on contact. So the one downfall I want to say about this is when it's really hot outside, these will completely melt if you carry them in your bag. But I don't even mind because they don't fall apart completely where they don't come back together again. And I also have the shade number 02, which is this really beautiful like sheer pink. I'll just apply that over top. So usually what I like to do with this shade is I'll apply, I'm not really into lip liners right now, but I'll apply a lip color and then go over top of this to add that glossy finish. It is like a thick consistency, so it really hugs your lips and just gives your lips a lot of comfort. So if you like those really thin consistencies, this one wouldn't be for you because it is quite thick and balmy, but it leaves your lips just feeling very comfortable. Definitely gives that glossy, shiny finish, so you have to be into that as well. But this has just been my favorite lip of 2023. But that is it for this Get Ready With Me using all my 2023 luxury beauty favorites of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below some of your favorites. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video.